Hey, Pastor Steve Waldron. I hope you're having an incredible day or night in Jesus. Thank you so much for being with us. Today we're looking at In the Beginning and the Big Bang. Did it happen? Let's take a look at the evidence. This is by Walt Brown, MIT scientist, and it's from In the Beginning, from his wonderful book. So let's dive in. We're using it as a discussion starter. He says this about a beginning, and it indicates a creator. Heat always flows from a hot body to a cold body. If the universe were infinitely old, everything should have the same temperature. For some reason, I'm thinking of Oral Roberts and his old hot hand there. If you've ever watched his old stuff. Because temperatures vary, the universe is not infinitely old. Therefore, the universe had a beginning. A beginning suggests a creator. So let's just break down what he's saying there. So heat's always flowing from a hot body to a cold body. If the universe were infinitely old, like matter is eternal, everything should have the same temperature. Going from hot to cold, it should have evened out by now. Because temperatures vary, the universe is not infinitely old. Since it's not infinitely old, it had a beginning, which suggests a beginner. A creation looks at a creator. Let's look at the Big Bang. So the Big Bang theory, now known as seriously flawed, was based on three observations: the redshift of different starlight, the cosmic background radiation, and the amount of helium in the universe. So all three of these things have been poorly understood. So the redshift, the Doppler effect, and stars and galaxies are moving away from the Earth, stretching out or reddening the wavelengths of light they emit. Now, he that stretcheth forth the heavens, people would say, well, this is consistent with the Word of God. But let's keep going what he's saying about this. Space itself supposedly expands. If so, then the total potential and kinetic energy of stars, galaxies, and other matter increases with no corresponding loss of energy. Thus, the Big Bang violates the law of conservation of energy, probably the most important of all scientific laws. Now, some people would say at the explosion of the singularity that the laws were not developed yet, which is kind of confusing from chaos making order. That's just not observable science. But they would say at that moment that time, all of these things didn't exist. There's a German scientist in on that as well, making certain theoretical projections. If distant galaxies are receding from us, gravity should be decelerating them from the same reason gravity decelerates a ball thrown up in the air. Measurements show the opposite. Distant galaxies appear to be accelerating. So you throw a ball up in the air, goes fast, then slow, then down. So going from the Big Bang, it should be decelerating, but it's instead accelerating. And it's in a vacuum, open space, which has got a lot of other thoughts on that. Other possible explanation for red shifts do not involve an expanding universe. Besides many, and I really like reading about like Edwin Hubble, who discovered this, just amazing person. Besides, many objects with high redshifts seem connected or associated with other objects of low redshifts. They cannot be traveling at such different velocities and be connected for long. For example, many quasars have high redshifts, and yet they statistically cluster with galaxies having low redshifts. Sometimes quasars appear to be connected to galaxies by threads of gas. So what's that all about? Finally, redshifted light from galaxies has some strange features inconsistent with the Doppler effect. If redshifts are from objects moving away from Earth, one would expect redshifts to take on continuous values. Instead, redshifts tend to cluster at specific, evenly spaced values. Much remains to be learned about redshifts. Also, in a vacuum, you have this explosion. Things shouldn't be moving in uneven ways, and they are. And so it's not happening. Interstellar space is not happening and behaving the way a Big Bang would behave. So evidence against it. CBR, all matter radiates heat, regardless of its temperature. Astronomers can detect an extremely uniform radiation called the cosmic background radiation coming from all directions. It appears to come from perfectly radiating matter whose temperature is 2.73 K, nearly absolute zero. I guess it's Kelvin. Many incorrectly believe that the Big Bang Theory predicted this radiation. Matter in the universe is highly concentrated into galaxies. Galaxies cluster in superclusters as far as the most powerful telescopes can see. Because the CBR is so uniform, many thought it came from evenly spread matter soon after a Big Bang. But such uniformly distributed matter would hardly gravitate in any direction even after tens of billions of years. Galaxies would not evolve. In other words, the Big Bang apparently did not generate the CBR. The CBR may simply be radiation, coming from all directions from space, heated to its limiting temperature by starlight. So again, there's a lot of things like spiral galaxies with arms. They shouldn't have evolved in outer space the way they did. Just a lot going on there. And I'm reminded of this relatively new discovery of a round sphere emitting radiation towards Earth. That's kind of neat too. So, and let's look at helium. Helium, the amount of helium in the universe is not explained by the Big Bang Theory. The theory was adjusted to fit the amount of helium. Ironically, the lack of helium in certain types of stars, B-type stars, and the presence of boron and beryllium in older stars contradicts the Big Bang Theory. A Big Bang should not produce highly concentrated or rotating bodies. Galaxies are examples of both, highly rotating and highly concentrated. A large volume of the universe should not be, but apparently is, moving sideways, almost perpendicular to the direction of expansion. It's going to go from here in a vacuum, but it's moving this way instead of outward. A Big Bang would, for all practical purposes, produce only hydrogen and helium. Therefore, the first generation of stars to somehow form after a Big Bang should consist of only hydrogen and helium. Some of these stars should still exist, but none can be found. These observations make it doubtful a Big Bang occurred. Now remember, he was a former atheist who became a creationist. If a Big Bang occurred, and he's a brilliant scientist, what caused the bang? Stars with enough mass become black holes, so not even light can escape their enormous gravity. How then could anything escape trillions upon trillions of times greater gravity caused by concentrating all the universe's mass in a cosmic egg that existed before the Big Bang? I remember being on a podcast with Ryan French one time talking about this from the Big Think, and even the Big Think was like, there's real problems with the Big Bang. If the Big Bang Theory is correct, one can calculate the age of the universe. This age turns out to be younger than objects in the universe whose ages are based on other evolutionary theories. Because this is logically impossible, obviously, if the universe didn't exist. These objects couldn't be older than the universe. One or both sets of theories must be incorrect. So next we're going to look at missing mass in the universe, but we're going to do that next time. But thanks for being here. Genesis 1 is still the best explanation for creation. It matches everything we see. It's incredible. God bless you. We love you. Bye-bye.